Y'all are in for such a great talk today around things that really matter because Becca and I have been talking, and we believe that some of the things that block the things that really matter most to us, it's the dang trauma. And it's mainly the subtle, unrecognized trauma that so many of us have experienced, and we just don't recognize it. Because maybe one of these things on this list, we're going to go over 20 different items of subtle trauma that might be blocking the things that really matter to you, your energy, your joy, your wealth, your health, your well-being, all the goodness that is meant for us in life. There's so much crap that just blocks it. And Becca and I are going to go through these top 20 things, and we have a special surprise we're going to share with you at the end, so stick around. Becca, you ready?
I am so ready.
Stories the world must hear, breaking the silence loud and clear. Becca, Carole Jean, we're here to say the things that matter will lead the way. Rise up, rise together, hear it loud. We're standing strong, unshaken, proud. Sharing what matters, hear the call. For every woman, here's room for all.
Okay, so this first one really, this was a big one for me. I know you shared this one has been a big one for you too. Here we go, folks. Strap in. We're ready to go for a ride. Here it is.
Number one for the two of us, I think for both of us, this isn't in any particular order, but I would say this is number one for a lot of people.
This is definitely mine.
People pleasing at the expense of your own well-being, right? This is a trap. That's what this is. It is a giant trap, right? Please like me, please like me, please like me enough. I don't care if I have to erase myself for you to like me, right? Really rough, you guys. This one is a habit that people really have a hard time breaking. And I think it's because it masquerades as politeness or kindness, right? You're a good person, right? You're a good girl or a good person if you're doing these things, right? You get compliments for being this kind of person, right? But there's nobody saving you when the detriment of this thing comes to get you. Right? When you're too exhausted to do the very basics for yourself, right? What are some of the ways that you think people pleasing is a result of the trauma that you, and kind of how it incorporates into your life?
Oh, this is the big one. Saying yes when inside I'm screaming no, and then I'm exhausted, or worse, I'm like carrying that resent.
Mm-hmm. Yes, being resentful. Oh, we do that all the time, right? I did all of these nice things and I'm not getting anything back, right? And that's because we're doing all these things not for the right why behind, right? Our why behind the people pleasing is just please like me, right? And or I notice sometimes it's please just be done with me is what I want. Whatever you need from me, I just want to be done with you. So I'll people please you just to get rid of you too. Right? Like that kind of thing. That's another one for me.
Because that ties into one of our later ones we're going to talk about. This is the conflicty thing.
It is. And so that's a rough one. That's our first one. And I like to remind people that it's sneaky, this one. Because it really does masquerade. And so if this is something that you are guilty of, people pleasing to the point of your own discomfort, your own displeasure, your own exhaustion, right? That is about priorities and boundaries. And that's what's really underneath that. And we got to take a look at it. When you learn to value yourself, you don't people please quite so much, right?
Exactly. Well, here's number 2. Y'all ready? You strapped in? We're on a roll here. Here we go. Being hyper aware of other people's moods. How does this one show up for you, Becca?
This one to me is really deep rooted and it's painful. This one is attached to a lot of pain, and a lot of unhealed pain from like my childhood for me. So for me, being hyper focused on other people's moods or hyper aware of other people's moods, you're on guard all the time when you're like that. And to me, it's a part of that fight, flight, and being, just on guard all the time, right? That we get stuck in. And I think we take somehow responsibility for everyone else's comfort in the room around us all the time. And that's what this comes from. You're looking for little moments of discomfort. And because those things don't come naturally to us, it's extra work. It's like even more work than the usual for most people, right?
Yeah, like before I even recognized this, I mean, I can look back now that I know what I know, but I was like, I would walk into a room and I would be so tuned in, like I would be exerting so much energy, tapping into what's the emotion of the room, of the people in the room. Am I safe?
Correct. Am I safe? And am I or am I sticking out? Right? Like,
Yeah.
is my energy so different from it? And I think that for a lot of us, we feel very early on that feeling that your energy is different when you come into a room, right? Very early for us that happens, and it becomes this hyper-vigilance about other people's, discomfort, and it feels very one-sided. It doesn't ever feel like people are giving it back. Right. And so again, I want to say, what's your why behind that hyperfixation? Right. And I think every time we look at all of these and we think about the why behind, we're going to come back to that trauma. Right. Just really basic. The way we express things as autistics, not the same. Right. As other people.
And I think the subtle part of this too, for me, how it came in was, when I was little, I didn't have the understanding, of people in relationships having conflict and that being okay. Like that there's something called healthy conflict, right?
Yeah.
And my parents had healthy conflict. No, sometimes not healthy, but for the most part, it was like, now looking back, it was healthy conflict. It was how they were working out things together. But as a little autistic kid who was super attuned to all the things, anytime they had any kind of disagreement, I immediately was like going to the people pleasing. I became hyper aware, like, are they fussing?
Right.
Because
what's their energy to each other.
yeah.
And
And
because regardless of me, right? Why are we responsible for that though? Where did that sense of responsibility for other people's emotions come from? Right? It's a crazy thing.
and as 5-year-olds, we don't think about the big stuff.
Right? And it's a really interesting thing, because what we learn as adults is there is healthy conflict. And the more you value and respect yourself and prioritize your life and have boundaries, the more there is a setup for that, because there's something to argue over, right? There's something to have conflict over in that area. And so I think, what the difference, of course, is the way we learn to react and express our emotions, I think. As we get older, hopefully we get better at that. But, just watching people though. I also say to people though, now though, and I'm going to turn this on its head for a second, this hyperfixation becomes a skill set for us later on though. So let's not, poo-poo it away as all terrible, right? It's just like masking. Masking isn't great for us or sustainable, but it's also a skill set, right? That if you learn to use it voluntarily and consciously, right? And this is similar. We are consummate observers. Right. And that's where this comes from, is just being hyper aware of all of those things.
Well, Becca, take us into our third one.
Sure. This one we talked about recently, right? Feeling like rest must be earned. Oh, that was worthy of a whole episode, that guy, right? Not allowed to sit still. So what was our big takeaway, or your big takeaway from that episode, and rest needing to be earned?
Oh my gosh, just that productivity hustle mentality that I grew up in.
Yep.
My parents are like on the very edge. My dad is definitely in it. My mom's on the very edge of the baby boomer group, right? So they came in with this like hustle mentality. I mean, my grandfather grew up, and my dad too experienced the Depression. And so it was always this, this message of you gotta work to earn anything. Don't sit still.
Right. Like
Because
there's
sitting
always
still,
something you should be doing, right?
yeah,
Or
sitting
could be
still
doing.
is like you hadn't earned the right for that. You
Right.
don't have a diamond tiara on your head.
Correct.
I
Right.
do
Like you
now.
always, right. If that's right. Well, now we've earned it, right? Just like settle it on a little bit. But that's really, I think something we all have to unpack for ourselves. Where did that come from? Because rest is like food, right? They go in the same category. They're necessities, they're not options. And so that productivity, it comes from our environment. It comes from your growing up. And as an adult, have the right to question whether you still think that's true, right?
And it
Number
goes
4
so
is, oh,
deeply. Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
No, you still had more to say, please.
It goes so deeply to that core of our belief and knowing of our worthiness.
Oh, yes. Right. Here's another theme. Are you seeing it pop up in every single one, right? About valuing yourself, right? A lot of our trauma has told us that we don't have value. A lot of that trauma has taken away our self-confidence, has taken away, a lot of those pieces for us. And so that's where a lot of this is coming from, right? It's wait. So when I start to get to understand my value, that just by breathing, I have it, right? Then we get to work through some of these bigger pieces, right?
And we know what happens when we try to lean into, okay, I don't have to earn my rest. We're struggling to feel safe when things are calm.
Yep. This one is something I am still dealing with right now as we talk, right? This is something that I understand that I need rest. I understand that I'm building in all of these tools for myself, that I've done a lot of self-awareness work. I've done a lot of shadow work, I've done a lot of all of this other stuff. And that the reward for that is the calm, right? The reward for all of that work is the calm. And yet I have yet to find comfort in the calm. I am still, right. I can't quite let go. I don't quite believe that it will stay. Right. I think that's my big thing. Like, oh, it's good now. So when I'm in the good, I always go, oh, so the bad is coming. Right. That's how do I prepare for, I can't really enjoy the now and the calm. But we've done the work to get ourselves here. So this part is still hard for me. I don't have a solution for this one. This one is still alive and well in my life. So yeah, if you have solutions on this, I'd like to hear them.
This is definitely something that I have learned to receive, graciously receive. And there are still moments that it peaks up again and it's like, oh, but I immediately want to jump up and do something, or like I was floating in the pool yesterday, right? Like I had done 2 groups. I mean, I had a huge day yesterday and I was like, okay, I'm going to go out and float in the pool because there has to be this harmony, this reciprocity of action and resting. And so I'm floating in the pool. And do you know what I did? I stopped floating in the pool. I walked over, grabbed a little skimmer thing, and I start chasing bugs all over the pool. But it's fun for me. And I caught myself for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute. Did I get up and feel compelled to clean the pool because I couldn't just float here because it was feeling a little uncomfortable, like I needed some activity?
Right.
But then I was like, no, I actually do enjoy this, but I had to question the motivation.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'm good with like scooping out the bugs I'm worried are going to come over here and bite me. And the rest, the skimmer can get them.
Yeah.
Right? But there's still this evolution. But for me, it really took a lot of building trust within my own nervous system, because when my nervous system responded, my brain responded.
Yeah.
For me. And so it was really just using breath work when I felt like this compulsion of like, oh, I gotta be doing something, to just go, hold on, take 3 deep breaths, drop your shoulders, open, close your jaw. Less than 30 seconds, right?
Yeah.
And then check back in. It's like, no. And I think the biggest part was when I planted the flag and I said, I reclaim calm. It is mine. It belongs to me.
Right. Like that feels like my natural state, right? Is calm, right? And so this battle is something that I have to work my way through in some way, right? But it's certainly, and for me, and I don't know if other people feel this way, for me, it's rooted very much in a scarcity mentality for me. I grew up very much in a scarcity mentality. I did not grow up very privileged at all. And so the idea that my life should be calm, my brain immediately goes, oh, that's because I forgot to do something. If it's calm, it's because I'm forgetting to do something that should be interrupting my calm. Right?
Wow.
Which is really a wholly loaded package, right? Of all the things that Becca thinks are wrong with her, right? All my insecurity is wrapped up in this idea that not feeling safe, right? Not feeling financially stable, not feeling emotionally stable, or psychologically stable for most of my life, all of those things. And so my norm to myself is not calm. And calm is new for me. Yeah.
It is definitely something I'm learning to enjoy, which I never thought I would.
Yeah.
And that we talked about it on a previous show, but that experiment I did back at Christmas, where I waited to see how long it would
Right.
take before my brain just like really shut off and my body went, oh yeah, we can do
Yep.
that.
You have our
14
brain.
days.
We're rigid. We're so rigid about, all those, and that's the piece I want to let go of, right? Like it's almost an armor that when we talk about going through this process, you kind of are taking off little pieces of your armor each time, Yeah.
I always, when you say that, it's been such a thing. We were talking about it in our own Baylor group last week, and it was, in my early experience and sort of the story that I tell about when I was younger and had my first burnout experience. I had this blazer that I wore at school, and it was my armor. Essentially, it's what felt like it protected me. This physical thing protected me. I said, now I have sparkly regalia that I wear so I shine in the world. I want to be noticed. I'm not trying to fend the world off. And those shifts happen when we start to recognize these subtle things that show up.
Yep.
So Becca, take us into our next one here.
All right. So this one is, I am grateful to have gotten rid of this habit, over apologizing for things that aren't your fault, right? People use the word sorry for all the wrong reasons. Most of the time we say sorry when it's not even appropriate for it to be there, right? And this is very tied to that people-pleasing thing, I think, right? The idea that if we take ownership and responsibility for whatever the error is, right, that people will like us. They don't have to then take responsibility for whatever the error is. But I also think there's a very autistic piece of this, which is that so often we are used to being told we're in the wrong that we just assume that if something's gone wrong, it must be us, right?
It's the preemptive apologizing.
Right, exactly. It's the, something was miscommunicated. It's probably me. Right? Like and that kind of habit too. So it's loaded for this over apologizing for us. We have two different reasons for doing it. And so we do it a lot, it's habitual. And my favorite, the way that I taught myself or retaught myself to do this, one of the places I used to say sorry a lot was in emails or with meetings, like in workplace scenarios, where I would say sorry for being late, sorry for the delay in my email response because it took me 2 hours instead of 10 minutes, sorry for, all of these things when, it's not something that I need to apologize for. There was no expectation set about when I needed to do. I'm setting that expectation. So when I learned to flip that in my head and say, what I'm really saying to this person is, thank you for waiting for my response. Thank you for, your flexibility. Thank you for, right? So now when I say to people, I need to reschedule, I don't say, I'm sorry to bother you, or I'm sorry for whatever. I need to reschedule with you. I just say, I need to reschedule with you. I appreciate your flexibility, right? Because that's what I really want to say, right? Not I'm sorry. So that's, I challenge you guys with that. And find the space in your life where you do the I'm sorry the most, like gut reaction is sorry, 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 or you apologize habitually before saying what it is that you have to say, find those spots and script yourself a new response, right? And just use it until that becomes the habit, is what I say.
There is nothing to add to that. I 1000% right there with you, because that was a big one for me too, to really break that. The only thing I would add to this section on the apologizing thing, especially for those of us in certain societies as women, reclaim your dang power.
Please.
Please. You are allowed to take up space. You do not have to apologize for your existence and anything that you do.
No, it's real. I live in New England, and in New England we have a saying: we are kind, but we are not nice, right? Which means that if you need something and I can help you, I have the kindness in me to help you with that. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you how pretty you are all the time and tell you how happy life is right? I'm not going to sugarcoat things for you. But that doesn't make me an unkind person. And that's what this is, right? Just not apologizing for yourself and taking up your space, right, is what you should be doing, right? That
You're allowed to have needs.
Yes.
To reschedule, to be late, because life happens.
Just exist and be, right? Exactly who you are, right? In your own timing, which is another piece that I think we don't ever get as autistics, is timing, the timing that works for us.
Oh, right. We need to do a whole episode on that one right there.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is avoiding conflicts at all costs. Y'all, I had like full on visceral response to the slightest wavering of conflict.
Yep.
Like, it made me physically sick. I mean, it would twist my stomach in knots. I would be like nauseous. I wouldn't be able to sleep because I would be like playing everything through my head. And I would minimize whatever I needed in the moment, even if it was something that was hurting me, if it was causing conflict. I would just suffer to make sure that I was avoiding any potential conflict. I would apologize, people please. I mean, you roll all those things into one. Right here is the heart, the conflict.
I think this is such an interesting one, because my response to conflict and the dislike of conflict was to self-sabotage. So I started conflicts so that I had control of them. Right. So that I found, especially in my like teenage and early 20s, I went through a very rebellious phase. And, it was like, okay, well, there's going to be conflict and it's going to come at me and I don't understand it. Well, I might as well start it before that happens and create the conflict from my end. Right. And that's really a self-sabotage, right? It's assuming that things are going to go that way, and also arrogant to assume that you can have control over situations that are involving other people, right? But conflict became this thing. It's like, let me get good at it then. Like, let me be the expert at conflict, and like, let me out conflict you then, because it felt like everything for me was a conflict. Any choice that I made was not going to be good enough for people. What I wore, what I wrote about, where I lived, what I liked, all of those things I felt were kind of really under a microscope. Right. And so I feel like I took almost the other direction because of all my trauma into like initiating conflict. Right. And being kind of one of those spiky people that's always kind of out to like start things. Right.
I'm so glad you're my friend, because I'm not, and I need that.
Well, it serves me well now. I will tell you, there are certainly times where my very, very loud New York mouth and my direct autisticness, is certainly valuable. But, certainly areas where I was like, you know what? I am the conflict. Watch me be the conflict.
I love it. And I love that we can talk about this avoiding conflicts at all costs from different perspectives, because as humans, we generally move in three ways. We either turn inward during stress and conflict, or we move against, like you were saying, like, I'm going to create the dang conflict. I'm going to make sure it comes to a head quick, because I just like, let's just get it over with.
Right.
Right. And then we've got people that subtly look for, what does everybody else think before I even pick a side of a conflict.
Yep. that's seeking for approval. So there's a lot of, this is part of our communication, right? Our trauma around communication and clear communication, right? And so this one is a good one. I think folks should think about this, right? No matter what side of conflict you took or what direction you took with conflict, the way we communicate with people and the way we choose to respond to people is where our power really is, right? So play in here.
Definitely play. I cannot recommend play enough. So Becca, this one you said was really something you wanted to talk about.
Yes, downplaying our own experiences is the next one. And so this one for me is probably the backbone of most of my autistic struggles, right? I am someone who very much experiences my autism internally, right? It's a lot of sensory issues, a lot of communication issues that don't necessarily, like, it doesn't necessarily impact the folks that I'm working with. It's more about my understanding, I think, of the way things function. But my sensory space is somewhere where, and food too, safe foods, things like that. Those two areas, really for me, I downplayed all of my, right? It was always like I forced myself to eat what I didn't want to eat rather than explaining that, I'm weird and I don't like this because of this little piece on it or whatever it is, right? Same thing with sensory, right? I went through, it's why I called my book Always Bring Your Sunglasses, because I was afraid to bring my sunglasses with places because of people's judgment around wearing sunglasses inside or wearing them in certain environments. And so I would just let myself suffer, because every time I said lights are painful to me, people would tell me it's not possible. Your eyeballs don't have nerve endings or whatever BS they were making up at this time. Right. And so I was told that it wasn't possible. And so I just learned to push through, and I learned to minimize all my discomfort. And treat it as though it wasn't a priority and it shouldn't be important, because I was the only one experiencing it and I wasn't making anyone else uncomfortable. It was just making me uncomfortable. And so, yeah, to people, I downplay my experiences. And I had this thought come up too recently about downplaying our experiences, where I've been thinking, you and I have both been thinking about telling your story, right? And the story that we tell ourselves in our head versus what reality is, and all of those things, right? And a lot of the time, I told a story to people that I was fine, right? And I really was not fine in any way, right? But it's like that. So what story are we telling ourselves about that? Are you telling yourself it's okay to struggle with your sensory because nobody else is uncomfortable? That's part of my story. I lived that story. And so it's important to think about that piece of it, because we have to, no one else is going to take care of those pieces for you. No one's coming in to swoop in and make you sensory comfortable. So you have to really learn to own that piece, instead of downplaying it so much for other people. But yeah. Do you do this as well? Is this another one for you?
I can say that I don't know, because of unrecognized early trauma, alexithymia, co-occurring health conditions, everything to me was suffering. And I just thought I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that I was even downplaying it. I just thought everybody else was suffering. They just handled it better than I did. Until I started to learn, oh, other people don't. And then I was like, what?
Right? You're not in this play too? Like, what?
But your skin's not on fire? What?
Right? How do you sit there? I mean, it's amazing when that lifts up for you and you're like, hold on, right? I don't have to, and you're like, well, then I don't have to do that anymore. I can start to think about what's really happening for me, because that's what everyone else does, is put their needs first. There's a moment when that happens and you kind of recognize that bit.
There totally is. This next one is the one that probably showed up more for me than this last one. And it's this deep fear of being too much.
Yeah.
Because I was told, you're too loud. You're too happy. I was told I was too happy. Y'all, that's just wrong. Who tells somebody they're too happy?
I don't,
That's messed up.
Right?
I mean, right?
It's really messed up.
I remember so many times, like, tone it down, Carole Jean.
That's right. But this is such an interesting one to me, because here we are, we're going to have again where I went the total other direction with this, right? This deep fear of being too much. I think I heard it so much as a kid that then again I went, you know what? Let me show you too much. You know what I mean? That I was just like, you think that's too much? Because I'm working really hard not to be too much right now. So let me not work so hard. Let me show you what that looks like. Right. And so I became, I think, too much. It was in a very rebellious way that I became too much. But I stopped keeping my mouth shut. I never edited myself. I did lots of things where I think I intentionally pushed people, right? As a way.
Damn, you're my heroine.
But it's not necessarily a healthy either, right? Yeah. Because then you get kind of cast as the villain in every story, right? I was the villain in every story. It was always my fault. I was always too angry. I was always rude, right? There was never a positive adjective attached to me anywhere, right? And that's what I was signing on for, right? That was the choice that I was making, because I felt lost in the world. And I was like, well, if, then nobody likes me, then watch nobody like me. Right? Like, let me show you how easy it is not to like me. And that became my persona for a very long time. That was my wall, right? That protected me from everyone. In the way that some people choose people pleasing. I think I chose, I dare you. Yeah.
When I was in 6th grade and up to that point, I mean, I was like gregarious and really happy and floaty, and everybody was wonderful. And I loved just being in the world, even though there were a lot of things I didn't understand. I was still happy being me.
Yeah.
And then I started to get picked on by a group of girls who said I was too much, too loud, too happy, I said stupid things, why are you wearing earrings like her? Those are her earrings. I'm like, whoa, Anne Klein sells them to everybody. I can own them too. Right? I mean, that kind of stuff. And so there was this point, this shift that happened, that I paused. And then I agreed to all that crap.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm too much. So do you know what I did? I stopped talking. I stopped being happy. I stopped just being free and open. And I spent then probably the next 6 or 7 years being quiet. And this is what really got me. The next year, those same exact girls then criticized and ridiculed me for being so quiet.
Right. Because no one's ever happy, right? That's the truth. And so it's a really interesting thing that you can choose to be too much in lots of different ways. And I think, again, it was like, I know I'm going to be too much. And so let me just be too much ahead of time. Let me just get ahead of the curve and be too much in front of it. Right. But that doesn't work out for us either. And so it's really, this idea that there could even be too much, or that you have to be this desire for sameness is what it is right. We were taught that, right? That doesn't come naturally to us. As people, we are taught that from people. And it's interesting that you had that moment with girls, because I also had that moment with girls, because girls are mean, by the way, and nasty. And I would rather be a boy and get punched in the face than treated the way girls treat other girls. But I had this similar moment. For me, it was when I was 8 years old, and it was like, I wasn't interested in dresses. I wanted to play in my garden. I wanted to climb trees. right? And that was fine and well acceptable until a certain age. And for me, it was 8. And at 8, it was like, no, now you're supposed to be wearing pink, and you're supposed to like makeup, and you're supposed to, right? All of these things. And yeah, that was when this fear of being too much, or fear of, not fitting in became, yeah.
Oh, and then when it shifts into this own internal judge of you judging yourself for being too much, it can get pretty.
We let them live in your head, right? We let them. It's not our voice that's saying that.
Yeah,
it's not. It's an echo of their voices, right?
Yeah. And that can carry forward and begin to put up boundaries and blockers and giant mountainous ridge caps all around the things that really matter to you. So this next one, I can't wait to discuss.
This is a good one. Difficulty making decisions. Now, this one, right, I think is well rooted in self-trust, right? This is stolen. It was stolen from me. I don't know if it was stolen from you, but right, when you're told that the way you are innately, the way you exist and choose to do things innately is broken and needs to be fixed all the time, right? I mean, that's really, I feel like for me, you stop learning to trust your gut at that point, and you stop trusting your gut, and this rolls in, and aren't we a lovely package?
When you've been told, why are you doing it that way? That's weird. No one else is experiencing that. And then it starts to erode at that internal self-trust. And then it's like, oh, well, if I'm doing this wrong, or if my experience of this isn't right, like didn't even question our own experience. We know damn good and well it happened, but
That's
it's like,
right.
maybe I'm wrong. So then it's like, oh God, it's not safe for me to make a choice because I've been told so many times I was wrong. Or the other side of that is when I've made decisions, bad things have happened and I've gotten hurt. I can't trust my own choices because, sometimes we just don't see the things other people see, and so it culminates into like this perfect storm of decision fatigue builds up too, because, oh my God, how many decisions do we have to make in a damn day? Seriously?
Oh my God, I hate it. I have to tell you, one of the reasons I love my husband to death is because I can literally turn to him and just say, I don't fucking know. Can you please just decide for me? Right? Because
I borrow him.
Right, because I will stand, especially like if we have to order food or I'm in the supermarket and I have to choose a product. Please, I could spreadsheet between the ice creams to decide which one I want. And so sometimes I'm just like, babe, I can't today. Could you just decide whatever it is? I'll be happy with it because I'd rather eat that than not decide. So here's like, and it's terrible decision fatigue. I hate it. Oh,
It's so interesting. I do something similar with my husband. I'm like, okay, my cup is full to capacity. Like I have no more bandwidth for anything. Just pick. I don't care.
yep,
I really don't.
take me with you. Just drag me, take me, and I'm fine.
Like I am so happy to just be the cart behind the horse.
Yep.
Let's just go for it. Okay, so this next one I think is really good. I can't wait to have a conversation on this one. So this is number 10.
Yep.
And I feel we're our 36-minute mark, y'all. And so Becca and I'll share where we're going to share this next 10 with you because we really do want to dig into all 20 of these. So we got a little special surprise. So just hang on. Let's talk about this last one real quick.
All right. So this one is so interesting to me because I recently wrote a post about this on social media because I think it's so annoying, this thing. I hate it when people praise us for getting through the struggle and we become inspiration because we've gotten through the struggle, when those are the very same people that created the struggle for us in the first place.
I loved the post that you wrote on this, by the way. It was so
good. Would you please, thank you so much. Would you please stop doing that to me? Like, it doesn't make it better. You made me jump through hoops and then you tell me how well I jumped through the hoops. Get out of here. Nobody had to have the hoops in the first place, right? I
would say it's even like, oh my gosh, you're so resilient. I'm so inspired. I can't believe you jumped through all those hoops with 2 broken legs. But you're the one that gave me the damn broken legs and made me jump through the hoops just so I could be okay.
Right. Just so I could fit whatever it is that and so this to me is this is a red flag for me in terms of like toxic people. Right. I have little list in my head of my little red flags that when people do these things, they are no-nos for me. Like, I don't care how long we've been friends. I don't care if I just met you and you think I'm judging you too quickly. I don't care. These are my boundaries around certain things. And this is one of them. Because this to me is as good as gaslighting. This is one of those truly toxic behaviors that I have only seen the neuromajority participate in.
Yeah.
This is not something that autistic people do to other autistic people or other neurodivergent people.
Not at all. And where this can be like that really subtle indicator that there has been some trauma in the past is like when you're being praised for being resilient, but inside you feel like you're barely holding it together,
Yep.
but somehow that little gold star you're
Yay!
thinking, okay.
Right. Yay, beat the board. Yay. Right. It's all of that kind of thing. And so, but when you unpack where it's coming from, it's a dirty compliment, right?
Oh,
That's
God, I
not,
love that dirty compliment.
yes,
Ooh,
it's
that's
a dirty,
good.
nasty. It's a
Yeah.
passive aggressive way, right? It doesn't genuinely mean what it means. And so I say, you're right, because what people do is we're so happy for our gold star that even though we're feeling like we're barely holding it together, we're going to try to sustain that for another gold star.
Somehow that makes me worthy and acceptable and I can belong.
Yep.
That's deeply wounding. That is energy draining.
Yeah. I mean, it is. And then it's like you don't admit to yourself then that you're barely holding it together. And so you don't do any of the self-care where you're not aware, you break your interoception. It's so many bad things, right? Result from just not admitting, you know what? No, though. I mean, yay, I'm glad I was able to do it, but I'd like to never do it again. Thank you.
This is
Right?
like sticking duct tape on somebody's mouth so they can never say they're not okay.
Yeah. It's really, this is and it's sneaky. So this one you find everywhere. And again, it's another one of those things that is manipulated to look like a compliment, manipulated to look like, right? And so we go, oh, thank you. Right? When we should be saying is, well, if you hadn't created the mess in the first place, I wouldn't have had to be so damn resilient.
Exactly. Right? Oof. Yes. As we wrap up this very powerful, hopefully incredibly service-oriented conversation, like this has really served you today. It has supported you. Becca and I also want you to know that you don't need to have a dramatic story or a specific diagnosis or anything like that to have experienced trauma.
Yeah.
Trauma can be slow. It can be quiet. It can be insidious and cumulative. It can come from constantly being misunderstood, unsupported, or told to hide your authentic self and the things that you need. It can come from chronic invalidation or growing up without the emotional scaffolding that you needed. And you deserve support. You deserve healing. You deserve compassion and rest, even if you were never, quote unquote, the one who had it the worst. This is not a comparison. This is about what you need and where you are.
That was good. I don't want to say anything else. It was very pretty.
So here's the surprise Becca and I were planning, because we like to play and have fun. And this is a pretty heavy topic, but we decided we can still play and we can still have fun and we could still talk about the heavy stuff, because these are the things that really matter.
Yeah.
So next week, be sure you check both Becca Lory Hector and Carole Jean Whittington at Whittington Wellbeing, because we're both going to write articles with those last 10 items on our list of our top 20. We may even have a little bonus one here or there, and really dig into those. And kind of like our show today, we're going to share our perspectives on these. And this is going to be really fun because you can go read both of them and see, how did Becca feel and experience.
And we're not going to cheat. I don't want to see what Carole Jean's writing. She's not going to look at what I'm writing. We're going to go. It's going to be a surprise for us too, to look at the other person's perspective. And I think this is a really good one. I hope you'll, when you see that 10 come out, take the time and go through them yourselves, right? Get through the last 10 and take a look at where they live in your life, right? And if you're ready to get rid of them and all of those things. But I'm excited to continue this conversation because this is a fun one.
It is. And we got a little treat that's coming with it. We're going to have that top 20 list of those subtle trauma things that you may not have identified that get in the way of things that really matter. We're going to have a checklist for you, so you can just download it and go through it and have fun reading all the articles. And be sure to share the show with a friend. Reach out. If you're in a group and, just share the show. Let somebody else also have the opportunity to get to meet Becca and I, because we love to meet new folks, and say hi to us over on Instagram or LinkedIn. We hang out over there pretty regularly. Thanks so much for being here to talk more about the things that really matter. We'll see you next month.
Thanks for being here. It's been quite a ride. Energy mastery, let's turn the tide. Top shelf guests, dropping wisdom bombs. Join us next week, where the energy's strong. Beyond Chronic